What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Week 17 podcast for Common Man Sports. I'm Brandon. I'm here with Nick, Mikey, and sadly Mike.
Fuck you.
An interesting week happened. 49ers got the number one seed. Eagles are exposed, but let's just get started with the Eagles. Nick, you told me about a tweet that was just posted, so why don't you go ahead and read that?
Yeah, so before we started this, I saw a report from a Eagles insider, and they basically said that the locker room in Philadelphia is corrupted, and they said the centerpiece is wide receiver AJ Brown, and a veteran player from the Philadelphia Eagles. Basically, I don't know what the exact quote was. They basically said was that once drama happens, it makes everyone fall apart and it sucks. So this team has been struggling. I think they're in a horrible losing streak. They lost to Arizona recently. James Conner had an incredible game, and it's starting to show the true colors of this Philadelphia Eagles team. I think we've had this conversation multiple times. Each and every one of their wins were against really bad teams, and they were so close. This team does not look like that they're ready for the playoffs. You can make the argument, say they can make the mistakes in the regular season and not make them in the playoffs, but at this point right now, this team is falling apart badly. Jalen Hurts is having a down year, even though he looks like he's still a top player in the league, but he's having a down year. AJ Brown is corrupted, and just this whole entire Eagles team is just not where they want to be right now. They started off 11-1, and then once they lost the 49ers, they just fell apart. I think they're like, I want to say 1-4 in the last 5 games or something like that. So
they've lost 4 of their last 5.
4 of their last 5. So
cracks showed against Buffalo too.
Yeah,
they had played.
So this team, there's a lot of questions to be answered about this Philadelphia Eagles team, especially with the way that they lost to Arizona. Is Arizona a team that is not even close to even making the playoffs, and they just got fallen apart? And it basically shows Arizona owns Philadelphia. The Diamondbacks own it against the Philadelphia Phillies and NLCS, and now the Arizona Cardinals own the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're showing them their true colors. And that's all I got to say.
I mean, we saw this earlier in the year when A.J. Brown wasn't getting thrown to. He threw a fit. And, I mean, we saw the post-game press conference. He tried to interview. He's like, I'm not talking to you guys. Like, there's not much to say, well, with the smirk on his face. You know, he's literally pulling an Antonio Brown level of pettiness. You know, he's not getting thrown the ball. He's acting like a child. And it's been this every time. He's gone after fans on Twitter several times. You know, and also I think the question comes is, I'm going to make a hot take here. The Eagles need to fire Nick Sirianni. What does he do? Like, what does he do? This shows last year that the Eagles were carried by Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. Now, I honestly guarantee you, I don't know if they played the Colts this year, but if they did, they probably would have lost. But, you know, I don't know what Nick Sirianni does. And I think they need a change, because even when he was calling plays, he was awful. I just don't think their coordinators are awful. AJ Brown is acting like a baby. I mean, they're falling apart, and there's nothing but also, so the Cowboys and Eagles lost to the Cardinals. So does that make the Giants better than both those teams because the Giants beat the Cardinals?
Well, if we find out next week, then you'll get your answer, because the Giants will go up against the Eagles.
What I want to say is that I feel like this year, I don't want to say the Eagles have been exposed, because they're obviously still a top team in the NFC. They're going to be in the playoffs, but I feel like because they played the Chiefs so closely in the Super Bowl, we kind of forgot the narrative of last year. And the narrative of last year was all over the AFC. The Chiefs were the clear number 1. You had Cincinnati and Buffalo battling for who was number 2, but clearly 2 and 3, no matter what. And then you had up-and-comers like Justin Herbert and the Chargers, which I know seems funny now. The Dolphins, which doesn't seem funny now. And you had the Jaguars. And there were other teams like on the cusp, such as the Ravens. And everyone last year was saying the NFC is a breeze, and the Eagles are just like one good team in the inferior conference. And I think that was true, but I think now other teams in the NFC have gotten better, and so now the Eagles aren't big fish in a small pond anymore. They're in a competitive conference, and they might not be number one in that conference.
I mean, I'm pulling up the defense rankings right now. I mean, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they are 30. Oh, shit, that's bad. They are the worst pass defense in all of football. That's really bad. I mean, it's not like they lost stars. They gained Jalen Carter, who's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. They kept Slay, who's hurt. I mean, they got Kevin Byard, who I didn't really think Kevin Byard was all that. But, I mean, they're not. I mean, they've allowed the second most offensive touchdowns this year, trailing only the Commanders. They've allowed the most first downs, third most yards per attempt, and one of the highest completion percentages. I mean, I think what this is showing is that now Jalen Hurts is good. I'm going to give it. I do believe he has a knee injury that they're not, that if it wasn't a playoff run, they probably would have sat him, which they probably should have done. But the bigger thing is, I watched this video. I believe it was from Brett Coleman on YouTube. The Eagles run one play when they run the ball to anyone other than Jalen Hurts, inside zone. Even Jason Kelce mentioned it on his podcast. Like, oh, yeah, we're running inside zone. No, draws, no tosses. You have DeAndre Swift, who, remember, in the beginning of the year was really good. They're running pretty much a college-style offense, and it's becoming extremely predictable. And I don't know if it's because of their coordinators, but at one point, if Shane Steichen is this offensive genius, why hasn't he taken over? They're getting, really, as we talked about, they could have lost to the Bills. They could have lost to the Commanders. They could have lost to the Cowboys. That's 3 losses, which could have put them at, I believe.
They could have lost to the Giants.
They might even lose to us next week. Like, that easily could make them 9-8 right now. Like, it's these clutch wins that, in the playoffs, like, I'll make a hot take. I can see several teams beating them. The Rams, I think the Rams, whoever plays the Rams in the wild card is in for a treat, because that offense is really good.
I think right now it's the Lions that are lined up to play them.
The
return of Matt Stafford.
For that to happen, it's going to be, because they're going to have to beat San Francisco, and I don't know if San Francisco is resting their starters.
They're already starting Christian McCaffrey, and you can make the argument and say they could possibly sit Brock Purdy.
They should. Yeah, no, as long as now they for right now, so I keep stuttering. The Rams are going to need to win in order to face the Lions. Because if not, Green Bay would be the 6th seed and they would be the 7th seed. But either way, they go to Dallas and they would win in Dallas. But back to the Eagles, I just think they're just not as good as they were last year. I'm not saying they're not a bad team, but they're just not as good. I mean, if they struggle to beat the Giants next week, then they got bigger issues. But, I mean, I don't know how trustworthy Josiah Anderson is, but she says there's a big change coming in the NFC East. Now, I don't believe that's Brian Dable going, because there's no real reason for him to go. He has nothing. If Ron Rivera gets fired, that's not really shocking. The only thing it could be is the Eagles cleaning house.
And or you're in for the Commanders.
Well, so there's one thing that I kind of want to mention. Brandon, I know that you mentioned that there were clutch wins for the Eagles. I'm actually going to disagree with you on that. I'm going to say no, they're not clutch. They're lucky wins.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at the schedule right now. The game against the Eagles on October 1st, the Eagles versus the Commanders on October 1st. If Ron Rivera won for 2, that game would have been to the Commanders. And then
the only clutch run was if Jake Elliott, that kick Jake Elliott made that Mikey wants
against
to
against Buffalo, yeah. But also in that game, you can
that
say
was
it's
lucky too, though.
That was lucky too, because Gabe Davis didn't know the route that Josh Allen gave him, and then they didn't know how to play defense in the last couple seconds of the game, and then same thing with the Chiefs versus the Eagles game. Who was it? It wasn't Valdez
Scantling.
Right?
Marquez Valdez Scantling.
If he made that catch, that was going to be to the Chiefs. But you can make the same argument and say, there was the lights were on their faces, the moment, whatever. But at the end of the day, that was luck right there. They're professional athletes and they're supposed to make that catch. And then that also game with the Cowboys versus the Eagles. I personally think that the Cowboys should have won that game, but the Eagles squeezed it out as well. These are games that they're lucky to win.
Yeah.
So, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't call them clutch wins. I would call them lucky wins. And you can also say the same thing about the Christmas game with the Giants versus the Eagles. That was a lucky win. If Tyrod Taylor played the whole entire game, you could.
There was pass interference at the end of the game, by the way. They pushed Saquon Barkley out of the back of the end zone.
And you can make the same argument if Tyrod Taylor played that game for the rest of the game, they would have won that. But that's just all I'm saying.
And Jake Elliott's kick was definitely clutch against the Bills. But let's not forget that a call that probably should have been a horse collar on Allen was actually turned into an intentional grounding on Allen and probably took a touchdown off the board. Now, if Bass makes that field goal, the Bills still win the game. But still, that drive was headed for a touchdown, and it got derailed completely.
Mike, do you have anything to say?
About the Eagles?
Yeah.
I think it just depends who they face in the playoffs.
Right now, if everything goes accordingly, let's say they beat the Giants, Cowboys beat the Commanders, 49ers beat the Rams, they would be facing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. But, that's Baker. Baker's got a chip on his shoulder. And with that awful defense, who knows?
The Cowboys have the bye?
No, Niners locked up the bye. The Cowboys would be facing the Rams in Dallas, and Green Bay would be going to Detroit.
Interesting.
Oh, Green Bay made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to go into the next thing that's probably going to piss off Mikey. So my favorite playoff scenario of the week is if the Steelers and Jaguars win and the Bills lose, Bills are knocked out of the playoffs. Steelers have a chance because I assume they're going to bench Lamar. He sucks against the Steelers. You don't want him to get hurt. Who knows? Maybe at least he's not playing the 49ers. At least he's not playing the 49ers because we know Nick Bosa's views on things. Yeah, he would. I'm just gonna say this a little off topic. He would get 50 sacks in the white versus black game. Just saying. Anyway, Jaguars are facing the Titans, who Will Levis. It's reported he has a broken ankle or a really bad sprain. So it's Ryan Tannehill who is a corpse against a team that has pretty much given up. Could the Bills? I mean, it's in Miami. Bills are one of the better teams in taking away Tyreek Hill. I believe the last game you played, he was under 50 yards or something.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with you, Mikey. Are you nervous?
Yes and no. No, on the basis of if you were watching every Bills game this season, there was a certain point where if you told me we're even in this position where we could get the 2 seed, I would tell you you're crazy because we lost to the Jets after knocking Aaron Rodgers out of the game. Now, we didn't get beat by Aaron Rodgers. We got beat by Zach Wilson. We lost to the Broncos, who we had been dunking on for getting 70 points dropped on them by the Dolphins. Who else did we lose to? Oh, my God, the Patriots. Yeah, thank you. So, no, I'm not scared at all. It's just part of me feels like it's a gift that we're even at this point in the season after some of those losses. I would never imagine that we'd lose to the Eagles in overtime, destroy the Cowboys, and beat the Chiefs in that span. So that's the no side. The yes side, of course, because we did destroy the Dolphins in week 4, and we have shown that we can still be that team. I think that team that beat the Dolphins 48-20, I think it showed up against the Eagles. I think it showed up against the Cowboys. I think it showed up in the Jets rematch in Buffalo, but it didn't show up this week against the Patriots in the rematch, and it didn't show up against the Chargers either. We were lucky to get the win both weeks. And by the way, my prediction was right. The Bills would get the win over the Patriots this week, but it wouldn't be spectacular, which is exactly what I said because I know division games are so hard to predict. That said, I do think the Bills have a really good chance here because, number one, it is a team they've beaten. And number two, it sounds so cliche, but they do play up and down to their competition. I mean, this team probably should have lost to the Giants and got away with a no call. This is the same team that blew out the Cowboys. And this is a team that should have lost huge to the Jaguars based on the game they played, but also made it a one-score game at the very end. So I'm feeling many emotions. I'm scared. I'm excited. This game is so 50-50 because I think these Bills historically have these Dolphins number looking at the last couple seasons, but they're both playing for something huge. Bills potentially for their playoff position, period, and Dolphins for home field advantage. So I'd say half scared, half not scared because of the way the season's gone.
I mean, I just looked at the Tyreek Hill stats. Since he's been a Dolphin, he hasn't had more than 70 receiving yards. And in his career, he hasn't had in the 6 games he's played against them, hasn't gotten over 70 receiving yards. So the Bills have his number. Well, it's easy. Run, cover 2, don't one-on-one.
Is that including on the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not including playoff games, though.
Okay.
Just regular season games. The first game in 2017 was 7 catches, 41 yards, then 3 for 20, then 7 for 63. And then when he was on the Dolphins, 2 for 33, 9 for 69, and then 3 for 58 this year. So I think
neither team is the same team because now
they don't got Jalen Waddle. I don't think Jalen Waddle is going to play again this week. So
yeah.
who's going to be the other? Is Chase Claypool going to get actual receiving targets in a important game, or Robbie Chosen, whatever the fuck his name is now?
I got to be honest. In the first matchup, I was more terrified of the Dolphins' offense because they had just dropped 70 on Denver. Now I'm not. I'm kind of scared of the defense. Not their defense is injury depleted, but the Bills' passing game has really struggled in recent weeks, and passing touchdowns is what got them going in the first game with Miami. So, I mean, maybe the Chargers' defense and the Patriots' defense just have that offense's number, the Bills' offense's number, but if they can't establish the passing game, I think it's going to be a close one.
Well, the only thing that I kind of want to say is this. Besides all the stuff about Buffalo and stuff, Jacksonville is struggling. Jacksonville, they went from 8-3 and now they're 9-7. You can say that they beat the Panthers, but the Panthers are the Panthers. I mean, the owner is getting fined $300,000 for throwing a drink at one of the
literal. That's like taking $1 away from someone.
Exactly.
With the amount of money he has.
So you can still kind of have the confidence that Jacksonville is possibly going to lose to Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. I mean, I know it's the Titans. They're 5-11. Derrick Henry is, looking pretty bad right now, and D-Hop has his moments here and there, but you could still have confidence that Jacksonville is most likely going to lose against Tennessee. So, that's another thing, and also, Pittsburgh is going to be having Mason Rudolph be the final starter, even though Kenny Pickett was like, I don't want this man to be starting, and I have to look upon him. But even though Steelers are going to be like, nope, Mason Rudolph is our guy, which makes no sense.
Honestly, Mason Rudolph's been the much better quarterback. I mean, Kenny Pickett had 7 touchdowns. He had 7 passing touchdowns.
But that's not saying much because Kenny Pickett hasn't been good at all this year.
Kenny Pickett hasn't been good since he got drafted.
You can make the same. If you said Mason Rudolph has looking better than a different quarterback than Kenny Pickett. Yes, you can make that argument. But it's Kenny Pickett. This guy is so bad. And I've had this argument last week. If the Steelers actually had a good quarterback, this team would have looked absolutely dangerous.
They would have been one of the top teams in the AFC. I mean, that defense is really good. Mike Tomlin is a genius.
Yeah, he just had another consecutive winning season. That's what? I don't know how many exactly, but
he's been their coach for a while.
He's been their coach for a while, and he had nothing but winning seasons. I mean, that guy is him, honestly. So, I would say feel confident that Jacksonville is going to lose to Tennessee because they do not look good at all.
I don't even know if Trevor Lawrence is going to play. I mean, Christian Kirk has testicular torsion. Don't look it up, but that's actually what he has. when he
And
got hurt.
Calvin Ridley
a
is
fun
so
New
on and
Year's.
off too.
No,
it's
he
a
got
ton of fun.
Christian Kirk got that like in the game.
Oh, I remember that. That was
Calvin Ridley's too
primetime
focused on
football.
gambling. Yeah, Calvin Ridley's too focused on gambling. They just lost Jamal Agnew for the year with a broken ankle. Besides Travis Etienne, they don't really have like, unless I'm forgetting someone big, they're
Evan
limping.
Ingram, but that's it.
Evan Ingram, but he's
But to actually
Whatever.
talk about the Dolphins for a quick second, you guys, I assume, saw and heard the video of Bradley Chubb.
yes.
Do you think it is coaching malpractice that he was in that game down 35 something points? He hurt himself 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, down over 4 scores.
Of course.
I think this is coaching malpractice, and it's no one's fault but Mike McDaniel's, and he has a history of doing this.
Tua
Yeah,
was sent out with a concussion against the Bengals and almost
Yeah.
died on the field.
Brandon and I just had this conversation before we started when Tua got a concussion during that game, and then he played on Thursday and then suffered another bad concussion. So, like, he has a history by just playing players that are not 100% healthy. I mean, also, like, the Hard Knocks when on the Black Friday game, who was the one that tore his Achilles?
Jalen Phillips.
Yeah.
That was the MetLife turf, so that's not really his fault.
But the thing is, like, I believe, like, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but during that Hard Knocks game, he kept saying that his leg was aggravating him. And then once one day set, he felt the snap, fell off, and he was just like, I heard a snap, it's gone. I'm done.
Also, quick breaking news: the top tight end in all of college football has declared for the draft.
So and I also saw that Bowers just declared for the draft as well.
That's the top tight
That's
end.
him? Okay. So okay, there we go.
But yeah,
Good
I
luck,
mean,
Bowers.
Mike, I don't know, because they've been investigated. They probably are going to get investigated now twice. But, like, how fucking difficult is it to be like, okay, we're losing by 30-plus points. We're winning by 30-plus points. Let's rest our players. Like, the 49ers did it. They were still in a close game last week, but they were like, okay, we're going to be fine. They just kept McCaffrey out for precautionary reasons and most likely saved from losing him for the entire playoffs, because we know how difficult calf injuries are.
Mm-hmm. They had to wear a tape around his ankle to make sure that it was like he was healthy enough, and then they were just like, nope, just forget it. You got to sit. You've been healthy this whole entire season. You cannot get injured in the second to last week of the game before we start playoffs.
It's just ridiculous.
Because Dolphins fans love McDaniels so much because he has taken them to a, I don't know, playoff team.
Guess you could say a winning culture.
I'm gonna make a hot take here. The Dolphins are good, but they're gonna get bounced the first round.
Yeah,
Their defense is so corrupted.
The way the Bills have the blueprint of how to stop Tyreek Hill. Cover 2. The amount of teams that one-on-one Tyreek with no safety help over the top. Of course he's going to fucking run by you. The Bills have the blueprint, and it's shown in the stats. But if you take away Tyreek Hill, Tua literally looks like Daniel Jones. Not playoff Daniel Jones. I want to state that because he looked really good in that playoff game. But
which one? Of Minnesota or Philadelphia?
Minnesota Daniel Jones. But they're good, but I don't think Tua's going to ever bring them a championship. I think he's going to be he's going to be a Phillip Rivers, where I don't even think he's going to be as strong as Phillip, because Phillip Rivers played on a torn ACL. But I don't think he's all that. I'm going to make a hot take. That quarterback class, while looks great on paper, it's not that good. Justin Herbert is good, but he's had all this talent. At some points, he's missing throws, missing first reads. He's a first-read quarterback. Trevor Lawrence has been good, but in terms of what they were projecting him to be as the next great big thing.
I think that's a different draft class you're talking about.
No, I thought it was
Tua, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow. That's the class.
I thought it was Trevor. No, Burrow was. I gotta look this up now.
No, I know it because I was watching it. Because it was during the COVID. It was with Roger Goodell in his mansion.
in the basement.
Herbert is that year,
his
though,
mansion.
right?
Justin
Herbert's
was
that year. I think I just switched out Burrow. Okay, besides Burrow, you're right. Besides Burrow, Burrow's been great. Although Burrow reminds me a lot of Andrew Luck, but that's for a topic for a complete other day.
And like Jordan Love has he's shown moments that he is that
Jordan
good
Love
quarterback.
for the past few
deserves
weeks
to
has
stay
looked amazing. I gotta give him the credit.
He's here. He's gonna get that massive contract from Green Bay this year,
And he's
guaranteed.
doing it. Like Rodgers complained about not being able to do it with the receivers he has. Jordan Love is doing it with those receivers.
He's doing it with Christian Washington and Luke Musgrove.
Well, Burrow's good.
Burrow's been good.
Burrow's great.
He's a system quarterback. He's a really good system quarterback. But the fact that the Bengals remain in the hunt with the second string kind of goes to show you that the team Burrow has around him has maybe elevated him above the status he might be if he was on maybe the Chiefs or the Jaguars or the Bills. I don't know.
Well, on the topic of quarterbacks, before we go into some more, teams, I think as much as it hurts, and I think McCaffrey not playing this last week kind of hurt his chance, but I believe Lamar Jackson has locked up his second MVP. And I say that
down.
Absolutely.
It's a great year, but it kind of feels like it's an underwhelming MVP year this year. In terms because years before we've had these great performances, but this year's kind of just meh.
I mean,
Well,
it is.
I like the competition for it.
It is a little bit meh. I mean, the players that you expect to be in the conversation are having down years. Patrick Mahomes is having a little bit of a down year. Jalen Hurts is having a down year, even though people are still arguing, saying that he's a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Not.
Dak Prescott, I mean, he's having a pretty solid season. He's going to get that massive contract by Dallas, but he doesn't know how to win away games and teams that are over 500. Brock Purdy, you can make any arguments, but I feel like it's the team around him that makes him good. Lamar Jackson, my God, that man, he has that winning mentality, and all he just wants to do is win.
But hey, according to people, he's not very quarterbacky. Just want to say that there are actually people out there saying that Lamar Jackson is not very. This one female reporter, it was a female and a guy. They were like, he's not very quarterbacky. We know exactly what they're trying to say. But Lamar Jackson, a brand new system this year that made him more of a pocket passer, has looked great. I mean, if you think of the weapons he has, loses Mark Andrews for pretty much most of the year. Isaiah Likely is great. I don't want to say a washed up Odell, but Odell's definitely not the same. Zay Flowers is one of the best or one of the better wide receivers in that draft class. He's doing with Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. Just imagine if they get
Gus
someone like Mike
Edwards.
Evans. He's still the 1 yard touchdown merchant.
The 1 yard cult king.
It's they're protecting him more, and that defense is incredible. I still say Kyle Hamilton, the fact that he fell to 14 shows. And that goes into our next topic, is that who do you guys think is the best team in the NFL at this moment?
Baltimore Ravens.
Ravens.
I can easily say that. I mean,
Ravens.
Odell Beckham Jr. even said this. I mean, Odell has been with 4 different teams, and he said that this team he has been on is the best team he has ever played with in his whole entire career. From top to bottom, this is easily the best. And I 100% agree with it. I mean, you can make the arguments and say that there is some pieces in there that is a little bit falling apart, but people made an argument saying that when Mark Andrews missed the whole but got shut down for the entire season with an injury, they're like, okay, now the tight end's kind of fucked. Likely has been looking really good. And now you see that Zay Flowers was a steal during the draft, and he is looking like a top wide receiver. Is he the wide receiver number 1 for Baltimore? Has to be, right?
Zay, he is. I mean, that class, what happened with Quentin Johnston is more evidence that don't draft TCU wide receivers. They're not good.
Yeah. And say what you want to say about Odell. I know, Brandon, you just mentioned that he's kind of washed, but
I wouldn't say washed. I said he's not as explosive. I mean, 2 ACL tears in the same knee. You're not going to be as explosive, but he's still not a veteran guy.
He's not as good as he was. Obviously the injuries got to him, whatever. His time in Cleveland, he wasn't that great because that was when Baker Mayfield wasn't that amazing. But when he went to Los Angeles, he was pretty good. And now when you're showing that he's against Baltimore, he's looking pretty solid. He's not going to be the top Pro Bowl wide receiver that we all know. He's looking like a pretty solid player. He's a great mentor to Zay Flowers, who has been looking like himself. I mean, in the beginning of the year, I believe that Zay Flowers got that contract bonus, and the first person that hugged him from that was Odell. these guys are great connecting to each other. It's a great mentor for him, and it's starting to show. This Baltimore Ravens team has been looking great all year round, and the 3 losses that they had this season, I believe it's been less than 7 points. I mean, I think the Steelers game when Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
looked a little bit iffy, I think that was even a close game too, even though the
Yeah,
Steelers were
that was a
all
one-score
over.
game.
Yeah, even though the Steelers were all over Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar threw like 3 interceptions. What were
He
the other
can't beat the
teams that-
Steelers though. He can't beat the Steelers. It's something about them.
What was the other 2 teams that beat Lamar?
I can look it up.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm gonna look it up right now, but yeah, my opinion is the Ravens are the team that is literally the best in the NFL. And
They
they're
lost to the
team
Colts in overtime.
and they lost to the Browns.
Yeah, I mean,
They lost by 2 points.
yeah, I mean that was
That
if you look at this, those are 3 potential, 1 guaranteed playoff team with a very
Cleveland.
good defense, with the defensive player of the year on their team as well. But
I feel like the Ravens are the only good team this year that I felt comfortable picking in a game at any point. Like I look at this game they're going to play and I say, oh yeah, they're going to win. Like of all the teams we consider good, like I don't know who's going to win between the Bills and the Dolphins this weekend. I don't know who's
going to be whoever scores more points.
At the end of the day, yeah.
I don't know if the Eagles are going to beat the Giants. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to beat the Commanders.
Oh, they probably will.
I never know when the Chiefs are going to win because they're so anemic this year. But the Ravens are the only team I've looked at and said.
I mean, you can also say the same argument with the Niners. Before the Christmas game, the Niners were the team to win, to the team that were favorites against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens were the underdogs that game.
Brock Purdy
and then Brock Purdy got absolutely bashed. 4 interceptions.
I wish I was on the podcast the week before because I would have picked the Ravens to win that game. But I do want to say I stand by what I said last week, which is that Lamar did not have the numbers to be MVP and would not be in the conversation if his team didn't have the record it had. However, he did what he had to do this weekend to erase that line of criticism about
he heard you and he dropped 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
He took that personally.
Exactly.
He could have had 6.
And it's kind of amazing that like his wide receiver room is a rookie, a veteran like Odell, Isaiah Likely, who is not a rookie, right? Is his second year?
No, he's a second or third year, but he's a 4th round pick.
And his running back room, which is Justice Hill,
Gus Edwards,
and not even Keaton Mitchell anymore. So it's kind of amazing.
Melvin Gordon. Don't forget Melvin Gordon.
Oh, right. He had his touchdown.
The guy that did absolutely nothing and still won a Super Bowl last year.
Literally, he said, I got an A on my presentation. I mean, the Ravens are just, I don't see any team beating them. Now, if you look at the playoff picture, I believe, let's say if the season ends, let's say the Bills win, Jaguars lose, and let's say the Texans beat the Colts. Jacksonville would face the Bills. Miami would go to Kansas City, and a very fun game would be Cleveland would go to Houston. Most likely, Baltimore would end up facing probably Cleveland, because I would assume Miami would get knocked out by the Chiefs, especially it's in Kansas City.
The returner Joe Flacco too. Oh my God, I'd pay good money to see
but
that.
imagine Joe Flacco versus the Baltimore Ravens. That's just so poetic. You know what? I want a Joe Flacco versus Baker Mayfield. No, give me Joe Flacco versus the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
Well, actually, Burnett, who is your underdog pick for the Super Bowl? I'll start with you, Mike, because you always have thoughts.
I'll go Browns. I would love to say Lions, but I think the Lions just get absolutely destroyed defensively. I think that defense is amazing. That front line led by Myles Garrett And Joe Flacco has been so good since he came off the couch with his kids like 4 weeks ago. So, yeah, give me the Browns. But obviously, I'm going to pick Ravens. But
That's
Okay.
not an under. Okay, what about you? Nick?
no. But, yeah.
Let's see. I'm just looking at the teams right now. I would pick the Browns as well. But I kind of want to pick a little bit of a different team to kind of like mix it up a little bit. Give me the Rams. Now here's the
I was
thing.
gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the thing. This Rams team, they didn't start that well this season, and then they got back Cooper Kupp. They got back Matt Stafford. They have Puka Nacua. They got back Kyron Williams. And this team is starting to look, all the pieces are starting to come together right now. They just squeezed into that playoff spot. And I really do believe that whoever they're going to go up against in the wild card, they're going to beat. And, this is, Kupp and Matt Stafford, they have a history playing in the playoffs. The last time that they did, they won the Super Bowl. So I can honestly believe that there's going to be another spark of Matt Stafford playing like his playoff self, and he'll reach the Super Bowl again. That's going to be my bold prediction.
What about you, Mikey? And you can't pick the Bills.
Let him pick wherever he wants. Come on.
Oh, you can pick the Bills.
Well, the only thing I'll say is the Bills will be my favorite if they win this game and get the 2 seed, because then they're at home for at least wild card and probably and divisional too. So yeah, but if they lose this game and they're the 6 seed, I think they get blown out in the wild card round, or they can miss the playoffs altogether. So for my underdog pick, you know what? I'm going to say they get hot at the right time. The Cowboys go all the way.
Oh my!
I was waiting for that one.
Jack gets it going, right? He says, "Here we go." He gets rolling. He blows out all the teams in the playoffs, and then destroys the Ravens in one of the greatest upsets in Super Bowl history. And Dak wins MVP.
And
All right, joking about the MVP part, but
fake football fans are going to go absolutely nuts because
The Lakers, Yankee fans going to come out high.
yeah, they're going to come out of nowhere.
I mean, mine is the Houston Texans if they get in. They
Okay.
got nothing to lose. DeMeco Ryans should win Coach of the Year, even though it's going to go to Dan Campbell. They have a very good defense. Will Anderson's been playing out of his mind. They have Derek Stingley. I can see them, I can see them if they beat the Browns. Let's say somehow they go up and face the Chiefs. I can 100% see CJ Stroud going in to Kansas City and beating the Chiefs.
Well, just a quick, is Tank Dell back?
He's not back this year.
Okay.
But I mean, even with that, I'm like, CJ. You got Nico Collins, who's very good. Dalton Schultz is being used more.
Singletary, who's
Somehow
solid as well.
over Damian Pierce. So it's gonna be. I think hopefully it'll be a fun playoffs. I mean, this year's been kind of weird in the NFL. It just feels like offense just hasn't really been there. So many injuries as well. Like this playoff race would be so much different, or so different if, let's say, Rodgers didn't get hurt, if Burrow doesn't get hurt. But because of all these injuries, it's weird. But you get a look at some of these younger teams, and hopefully we get up. I just don't want to see the Chiefs or the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Let's get 2 fresh teams. We've seen the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I would love.
teams that haven't been in the last 5 years either. So by 49ers. Oh wait, is that 6 years now? I don't know.
5.
And also, ever since Patrick Mahomes became a quarterback, he has been AFC or even higher.
I mean, they're not going to get as long as the Ravens don't lose in the divisional. They're not going to get that home field throughout the entire playoffs. I mean, no matter what, even if they win, let's say they beat the Chargers, they're locked into the 3 seed. So if somehow Miami wins, so if it goes like this, if Miami wins, but of course Jacksonville loses, Buffalo would be going into Kansas City, and I don't think they would win that game.
Oh,
I think the
Jesus.
only
Not again.
it might be
All
probably hard.
the deja vu.
This is
I mean,
such a no, but this really is such a crazy year. This year really is any given Sunday because again, last year all the hype, AFC 1, 2, 3 seed, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals. Those teams were unstoppable according to the media, at least. And now we're looking at a situation where obviously the Ravens are legit, but the 2 and 3 seed are going to be two teams that have been extremely vulnerable all season, either the Dolphins and the Chiefs or the Bills and the Chiefs. Such a huge gap between the 1 and 2 seed this year, at least in the AFC. It's so strange.
Even if the Colts make it in, that defense is really good, and Shane Steichen has proven to be a mastermind with Gardner Minshew as well. Just imagine what they would be doing with Richardson. Although I want to see the Texans in because I'd rather see Stroud versus Gardner Minshew. But I guess our last big topic, unless you guys have any other thing, is the draft class is pretty much set. I think the only thing the Giants can do is potentially move up one spot because I do believe the Jets are going to lose to the Patriots in New England in Belichick's most likely last game as a New England Patriot coach. So, but the big thing is DJ Moore has now publicly come out and said, hey, I want Justin Fields as my quarterback. Now, they could go one of two ways. Get a massive haul again or draft Marvin Harrison Jr., which would then make now I believe at this point the Commanders would have the second pick, so they would probably take either Caleb or even – but I do believe the Bears could essentially trade that pick again and get another team's first-round pick. So I feel like this draft is shaping up to be one of the more interesting drafts in recent years because right now it's A1 and AB or 1A and 1B for the best quarterback, May or Caleb Williams. They're saying May is more ready, like NFL pro style ready, and Caleb is the more gifted athlete.
But you also have to talk about Jaden Daniels from LSU as well. He's also in the conversation as well. Who it's looking right now if let's just say the top three quarterbacks are all going to be picked 1, 2, and 3. It seems like Jaden Daniels is most likely going to be a New England Patriot. And then you could say the Commanders are going to get Drake May. But I can see the Bears not going for a quarterback. I can see that they're going to just
see them going for Marv because he played with Justin Fields at Ohio State. He's the best wide receiver prospect since Julio Jones. Hopefully Marvin doesn't do what his dad did and kill someone. But besides that, he should be really good.
Now, Brandon, I want to ask you this. So let's just say the Giants get the 5th pick. Who do you want them to pick?
Depends who's there.
Okay.
If they can somehow trade up and get one of the quarterbacks, great. If not, I have no issues with them taking either an offensive lineman and move Evan Neal to guard, or taking. I really like Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Their wide receiver is very good. There's also a very tall wide receiver class. A lot of guys over 6'1".
Yeah.
But if the Bears don't have that number, don't want to take a quarterback, I could 1,000% see them trading that pick. And I feel like the Giants, especially with that pick from Seattle that they now have a very good draft capital with it.
So I'm looking at a mock draft right now, and it says that the Giants would go out and pick the offensive tackle from Penn State, Ulu Fashanu.
Yeah, Fashanu. I like him over Joe Alt. But then the Giants would actually have a pretty good offensive line. Andrew Thomas at left tackle. I want them to bring back Justin Pugh to play left guard, move Evan Neal to right guard because he's too slow. Then you have John Michael Schmidt at center. They would actually have a decent offensive line. And then you can cut bait with Daniel Jones at the end of the year and, see who's in this draft class for quarterbacks. But also, I don't think he'll fall to the second round, but some team could trade back into the first round and take Michael Penix Jr. I know he's a lefty, and has had 2 ACL tears, but he looked really good. He has a quick release, kind of Mike Vick style, and he looks good. He really looked good in that game against Texas. It's going to be an interesting quarterback class because, of course, Jaden Daniels, the issue with him is he keeps running into hits. So, but I think it's clear I still believe the first quarterback taken is most likely going to be Caleb Williams. But if if the Bears take Caleb Williams, I have no issues with the Giants trading for Justin Fields. That's kind of a hot take. I mean, he can pick up his 5th-year option. The Bears are not going to get a first-round pick for Fields. They'll probably get maybe a second or a third.
Who's going to pick up Daniel Jones's contract, though?
The Giants can cut him at the end of 2024 for $20 million in dead cap.
No, but here's the thing. So I'm gonna just put my senses here. When the Browns drafted Baker Mayfield in the first pick, their quarterback that he was running with was Tyrod Taylor,
the GOAT.
Now here's my opinion. I can see possibly the Giants trading up to get a pick, and they can go out there and they can draft one of the 3 quarterbacks if one of them is available. You stick with Tyrod Taylor, have him be a mentor, and then halfway through the season, you can say, all right, Daniels, May, or Williams, you're the next guy up.
And yeah, because Jones is out till most likely December with his torn ACL.
Exactly.
So,
Tyrod Taylor, when he doesn't hold back, is the greatest quarterback in the NFL.
Yes, but right now he's on my shit list.
Understandably so. But when he lets it fly, there's no stopping him.
Well, because of that 2-point conversion, even though it did help for us losing. Just having Mason Crosby miss that field.
Oh yeah, just missing badly to Saquon.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really
now,
bad.
When it comes to I'm gonna see if Mike agrees with me with this. When the Jets go out there and they draft for the NFL draft, they pick players that are fit picks. They're not going to go after the top player. I mean, like, in my personal opinion, when the Jets were going to pick last year, Sam Laporta was still there, and Brendan's gone. Anyway, so Sam Laporta was still available, and they ended up going out and getting Will McDonald. In my personal opinion, one second, I'm just trying to get back, Brandon. And welcome back, Brandon.
I have no clue what just happened.
So what I was just mentioning is Sam Laporta was still available in the NFL draft. I wanted to get Sam Laporta, and then they go out there and they drafted Will McDonald. That was a fit pick, and it's starting to look pretty solid, but I can personally see that the Jets are going to go that route too. They're going to find the piece that they're missing on their team, and they're going to draft players from there. I don't see them getting like the top option for the pick. It's not going to be one of those situations. The Jets always go for the very interesting pick and not the top one.
The Jets desperately need the Jets desperately need offensive line.
Yeah, I would love Joe Alt, but I don't think he's dropping past. What do the Jets have now? 6? I don't think he's dropping to the Jets.
The Jets, I see the Jets have the number 8 right now, and
I don't know if he'd go that far.
The pick that they have is Malik Neighbors from LSU, the wide receiver.
I don't see them taking another wide receiver.
I don't see it either. I can see them possibly signing another wide receiver, and you can mix with Garrett Wilson, but I do not see them drafting another wide receiver.
Isn't Flacco's success on the Browns evidence that the Jets need to focus on the O-line more than anything? I mean,
Mekhi Becton can't stay healthy because he's 350 pounds.
Aaron Rodgers played 4 damn snaps before getting injured. Joe Flacco, everyone said he was washed and his career was done whenever he started for the Jets last year, and now he's probably going to lead the Browns in the playoffs again. Well, not
and it's the same. And it's the same thing. I hate to say this, but people say the exact same thing with Sam Darnold. They're saying that he wasn't the problem; it was basically the O-line's fault for not taking care of him. But Sam Darnold was not a good quarterback. He still is not a good quarterback. I thought he was going to do well in Carolina. He was bad, and now he's a third string for San Francisco. He's most likely going to get the start in Week 18 if Brock Purdy's not going to play. It's just at the end of the day, this O-line is just not good for the New York Jets.
I mean, you're watching the game, and I'm not saying that Zach Wilson or any of the quarterbacks they've started besides Rodgers this season are good, but you're also looking at the decisions these guys have to make and the amount of time that the O-line allows them to have these decisions. And it's like, I mean, this team is just wasting money on Aaron Rodgers returning next year if they don't get a better O-line.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Do you know what's like? I don't want to sidetrack too much on the Jets because they're always irrelevant this time of year. But do you know what's like so like sad to think about, like as a Jets fan, is that this was the perfect year to take over the AFC East because the Bills aren't who they were last year. I think the Dolphins are absolute ass, and we know the Patriots are like that. I swear if Rodgers stayed healthy and besides Mekhi Becton, who's like Brandon calls him a fat trash can, they also lost Elijah Vera Tucker, um, and what's his name, Dwayne Brown, who's I don't think that's good. But if they had a better
Dwayne Brown,
if they have a bit of a better O line, it's just so sad to think about. It's like every year the Jets fans go through this wishful thinking, and it's just gonna haunt us for like
It's like
4 months into the offseason.
It's like the biggest what if.
It's like the
Definitely.
closest I am to a Mets fan. I just know your pain a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me twice. Okay. Yep.
I mean,
This guy goes through it twice a year.
Yep.
It's gonna be really interesting
3
this
times.
draft because
Talk about the honors.
now I don't know if people are gonna if Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, they'll probably choose to do their pro days, which is becoming a lot more common now. It's just going to be really interesting because unlike previous years, if let's say the draft order stays the same, the Giants don't really have space to trade up for a quarterback because these other teams in front of them want quarterbacks. The only chance they would is if the Bears like, hey, we're not taking a quarterback. I do believe no matter what, the Bears would trade that pick if they can.
Or they get Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, and then the Giants could then trade up to 4, and I believe Arizona's at 4, and I can see them keeping Kyler. I mean, Kyler's good.
Then they're probably gonna go for something else during that pick. I feel like
Probably they need a wide receiver above 5'9".
that's true.
How about this? If say the Bears draft Marvin, say Washington has number 2, do you think they replace Sam Howell?
Yeah, he got benched this year.
No, I can see that. Yeah.
But I do
still
want to
think
know
he's-
how much of his success has been with Eric Bieniemy. I mean,
True.
he made him look like an actual Pro Bowl quarterback. And then when Sam Howell got exposed, it's like, oh, he's dog shit. I do believe Eric Bieniemy should be getting a head coaching job this year. He's shown that, hey, I'm not a product of Kansas City. At least at times, he's been able to show that he can command that offense. But it's going to be interesting because I believe the Patriots – watch the Patriots.
Good job. Right before he said shit.
Watch the Patriots shock everyone and don't even draft a quarterback. They're like, you know what? We're going to stick with Bailey Zappi.
I mean, knowing the Patriots, they would, throw a curveball like that. I knew someone that got frustrated when they drafted Christian Gonzalez because he wanted Zay Flowers, even though Christian Gonzalez was a phenomenal pick.
He was the best corner in this draft class.
Yeah, but I know he got injured. He's out for the year, but
he was amazing.
Still, that's a phenomenal pick, and you're going to have him for many years to come. Hopefully.
I mean, the fact that he fell that far was shocking.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting because now I do want to bring up one kind of sidecheck thing. Chiefs fans need to make up their fucking mind. Does Patrick Mahomes have no help, or is Rashee Rice better than Puka Nacua? I see both things. He has no help, but Rashee Rice is really good.
And Isaac and Pacheco is running like Pacheco is looking like he is running a John Ross type of 40-yard dash, but he is so slow.
I mean, I'm going to make a hot take here. It's not the fact that he doesn't have weapons. Yeah, it's not the fact that he doesn't have weapons, but maybe the Chiefs just aren't that good offensively. Travis Kelce has been dog shit ever since they went public about Taylor Swift. He's non-existent anymore.
To be fair, he did make that amazing play that just got called back because of the offsides.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney he's just Kadarius Toney.
We missed Kadarius Toney last year.
If it wasn't called back.
Oh man. I mean, it's just a down year overall for most of these players. Like Kansas City, they're having a down year. Pat Mahomes is having a down year. It's just overall, there's a lot of teams and a lot of players that are having bad or / very down years. It's just this NFL season is just such a weird year.
And I think let's have a too far in advance look. So I think for next year it's going to be, as long as Rodgers stays healthy, it's going to be one of the more explosive NFL seasons in a while. I mean, just look at the AFC. Burrow's back. Who knows if they're going to have T. Higgins? Because if they don't bring T. Higgins back, people are just going to start double covering Jamar Chase. And who knows if he can,
unless they make a big splash in the offseason, which is pretty. I mean, you have a good wide receiving free agency free agency class.
They need offensive line. Orlando Brown cannot block anyone. George Karlaftis on the final drive of that Kansas City game did the same move on Brown, back-to-back plays, and got back-to-back sacks. I mean, they keep paying these people, and they're dog shit. At this point, who knows how long Burrow's going to last? He could be another Andrew Luck. I mean, then you got the Jets, who are going to be great as long as Rodgers doesn't die due to the offensive line. Who knows about the Chiefs at this point? I wouldn't be shocked if Kelce retires.
That's Jason Kelce is most likely going to retire.
Jason,
I don't know about Travis.
He seems checked out this year.
He said he considered it, right?
Yeah,
Jason's
1,000% retiring, but Travis has also said he's been thinking about it.
But usually when it comes to that age, they're most likely considering it.
I mean,
and then also Derrick Henry already said that he is not coming back with the Tennessee Titans. This is his final season.
He's got a couple years left because, I mean, I forget what year it was, but
the injuries got to him. He literally has a fucking silver plate in his foot with like 7 different screws.
Well, it's not just that, but like since 2019, he's had over 300 carries in 3 separate seasons. Like, I mean, in his 2,000-yard season, he had 378 carries. Like, they run him into the ground. I mean, he's about to be on the plus side of 30. He actually turns 30 in 2 days. So I wouldn't be shocked if Derrick Henry retires.
He looked nice in a Bills uniform, right?
Saquon Barkley. Well, can he hold on to the ball?
I don't really know what the solutions are for the Bills right now, so don't even ask me.
Because James Cook doesn't know how to hold on to the ball.
Yeah, what would you fix in that Bills team?
I don't know, because when they're firing on all cylinders, they look like the best team in the NFL. But they're not. They're never firing on all cylinders.
Wait, how many rushing touchdowns is Josh Allen away from tying Jalen Hurts' Mickey Mouse record?
I don't know. But
because I want Josh Allen to break it, because his would actually be real instead of Jalen Hurts' Mickey Mouse. 15 rushing touchdowns for 39 yards.
Yeah, I just don't know what I'd fix on the I wanted to talk about like teams that are on the verge, like teams that maybe just need one thing and then they'll be good.
About that.
For the Jet. Oh, I mean, it could be another day, but I mean,
no, we can talk about that now. We got time.
And teams I'd put in that category would be like maybe the Jets. They need an O-line with Rodgers back, and then they're fully in the picture. The Bengals, they need Burrow back. Although one thing I want to say about the Bengals is I like their chances for next year because they're going to have Burrow back, and yes, they might lose one of their receivers, but they're going to have Burrow back with a last place schedule. So like that
is true.
So like Burrow could be lighting that. This could be Burrow's MVP season next season.
The problem that I really have about Joe Burrow is that every season he starts off.
Hot take incoming.
No, it's not. I personally don't think it's a hot take. The first 4 games of the season, he's always stone cold. He always starts off like pretty slow. This season he started 0-3. The season where he was in the AFC Championship and he lost to the Chiefs, he started 0-4. So usually he's a mid-season quarterback and he goes off by then, and then the team ends up being one of the top in the league. I think even his season when he made it to the Super Bowl, they started off pretty cold in the beginning, and then just out of nowhere they won like 11 straight and they made it to the Super Bowl. So
yeah,
I wouldn't say in the beginning he's going to be like this top quarterback. He's going to just try to find his footing. You can make the same argument and say that he was injured the first 3 games of the season, but still he does it every single season. So I would say that once it gets to like week 6, that's when you can be like, okay, now it's time for him to turn on the Jets. No pun intended.
I mean, some of these classes for the free agents are really good.
Yeah.
But back to the Bills, the last thing I want to say is just that, like, I don't think they can be counted as a team that's on the verge unless maybe it's firing McDermott and getting a new coaching staff in there. And actually, maybe I just found the answer, just rambling about it, because they have everything they need. They've got regressing but still decent tight end Dawson Knox. Dalton Kincaid's up and coming. Diggs is Diggs. I mean, Gabe Davis, Shakir, they can be good. Tyler Bass is a good kicker most of the time. James Cook is a good running back
when he holds on to the football.
Their defense is great most of the time.
I think that was the reason the Bills struggled this year, is once they lost Matt Milano, he is so underrated. Like, when you hear the top middle linebackers in football, you think of Roquan Smith, Fred Warner. I don't hear enough talking about, Matt Milano. And also, Von Miller is a fucking ghost. He spent more time beating people up this year than sacking the quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Milano is definitely underrated. But the defense has still been good this year. They've still made amazing stops. And a couple of names have come up as, like, replacing Matt Milano, like Leonard Floyd, Terrell Bernard, Epineza. So it must just be the coaching that the Bills need to get over the hump, because they have everything. They've got a great quarterback. They've got one great receiver and a decent supporting cast. They've got a potentially great running back with Cook. They've got a good defense. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just need a better coach.
Well, that brings me to my last topic before we go. So, as everyone knows, Black Monday's on Monday. It's right after the regular season ends and everyone gets fired. So, what coach who hasn't been fired, and Belichick does not count here, by the way. Belichick does not count because it's already pretty much been rumored that he's not coming back. Who do you think should be fired, and who do you think is going to be a shocking fire?
Andy Reid. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Okay. No. Okay. Do you want to hear mine? Mine's going to be a little bit bold.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
An obvious one, I'm going Rod Rivera for Washington Commanders. Second one that I can possibly see, but I don't want to see, Robert Saleh. So, but look, I really like Robert Saleh. I think he wasn't the problem. He's a defensive head coach, and this team is great defensively. I don't see him getting fired, but I would be very shocked if Joe Douglas and the Jets decide to pull the cord and to say, we don't want you anymore. That would be the biggest shock for me, even though Jets fans really want it to happen. They want him and Joe Douglas to be, like, gone, especially after this season. But give Robert Saleh another chance. This defense is phenomenal. Sauce is amazing. And just overall, I really think that if they decide to let go of Robert, I would actually be really pissed.
Mine is, you have to fucking fire Arthur Smith. You have Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. You use Kyle Pitts as a fucking decoy for Jonnu Smith. And no disrespect to Tyler Algier, but you drafted Bijan in the first fucking round, and Kyle Pitts is the highest drafted tight end in NFL history. Use them. I mean, we're going to rock with Desmond Ridder. He's dog shit. That's actually a team that I can see potentially trading up for a quarterback. But
or they make a big splash and they go out and acquire or sign someone.
The only guy I could see them potentially signing is Kirk Cousins. But who knows if he's going to be ready for opening day for the regular season. I think, though, Belichick will be gone. I believe Antonio Pierce should get that job in Vegas. If he doesn't, he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere else. New England will have an opening. Washington will. I don't think Tennessee's going to fire Vrabel.
How about Packers, Matt LaFleur? That defense is atrocious. I think the Packers could be so much better.
That's more a Joe Brady issue.
Like, imagine, because this is what, every time I watch the Ravens game, you always hear Tony Romo or somebody saying this, that Mike McDonald, that their defensive coordinator, is going to be a head coach next offseason. So how about Mike McDonald as the Packers head coach?
I mean, yeah,
I think the Packers would be so good. I think the Packers offense is great.
Yeah, but Mike McDaniel calls Matt LaFleur calls the offense. Joe Brady calls the defense.
I think you got to focus on the defense right now.
I mean, also we have what's his name from Detroit, their offensive coordinator, who wants $15 million to be a head coach.
I can't think of it. I'm not too sure.
Ben Johnson something. But yeah, either way, it's going to be very interesting, which will be a great episode for next week when all that shit happens. So, also just want to state I did win the fantasy championship.
I want to hear Mikey's. I want to hear Mikey's picks.
I'm gonna just agree and say Robert Saleh. I mean I don't think he. I agree. I don't think he deserves it. I think he.
Sean
has, I think Saleh has really tried to rally that team, and I've seen him work with the offense and try to make it work, and it just doesn't work because of the personnel. He does call a great defense. There's no question about it. But the fact is, Jets organization, I don't trust them to recognize that it was that O-line that cost them Rodgers. I think they're going to be looking for heads to bust when this season's over, and I think it's going to be Saleh's. And you said McDermott. There was a point in the season where it looked like it, but certainly not now, and certainly not if the Bills do get the number 2 seed.
Because is Leslie Frazier coming back next year?
I doubt it.
You think he's done?
I think he was shown the door, but because he had such a good relationship with players and fans, they made up that whole taking a year off thing for PR purposes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Hopefully people are not playing fantasy this week, because if you're playing fantasy in week 18, what the fuck are you doing? But yeah, go Giants. What the fuck is the button?